I think men in general are a lot less accomplished at being vulnerable in the presence of other people, and it's so like, yeah, I can write songs where I bare my soul, but bearing my soul in the presence of one person, a friend, a family member, someone I'm dating, like that's the hardest part.
I'm curious how you feel about it, but it feels like we're entering into a phase where the fact that there's even that awareness that it's harder for men, and I think it is. I think there's a primal reason. I think that there's a cultural reason. I think that there's masculinity in general is its own thing. And so, but I feel like we're in a phase now where men are aware of it. And that is the first step to, it's kind of like saying like, hi, my name is so-and-so and I'm a whatever. Do you feel that? Do you feel like an opening now? Like that, maybe, just maybe you could sit in front of someone, a friend or a partner or whatever, and sort of like cry or have a moment.
I hope so. I mean, it definitely, like, if we take a step back, it certainly seems like it's moving in that direction. And I think part of it is also recognizing, the old classic masculinity is so ridiculous. When we see like tough guys taking themselves seriously, it's like, yeah, you don't seem tough. It seems silly, and it just doesn't make sense anymore. Maybe it made sense thousands of years ago when you're like fighting bears to protect your family and be able to like sleep in your cave. But
Right.
now, like an example of like tough guys being ridiculous is like two macho guys getting in a fight over a parking space. Like people are willing
Every
to
day.
like punch each other in the face for a parking space. Or like some guy who's like super angry because his sports team didn't win. It's like the sports team's not even in the town where you live. There's no people on the sports team you've ever met. That they're all making millions of dollars whether they win or lose. Why is this guy upset?
Yeah.
And I'm not criticizing sports. Sports are great. I'm just saying like these expressions of traditional macho masculinity they're just kind of ridiculous.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, one of the things that I love mentally giving myself this perspective of, because I can fall into the trap of trying to be perfect or trying to do certain things and fitting inside of my own mental box, but usually in alignment with sort of perfectionism or something in that realm. And when I do that, I don't give anyone else permission to not be perfect. Right. So it's in the vulnerability, which you do in so many aspects. You give permission to people to make unique music. You give permission to people to be honest about their childhood. You give, in our flaws, we're so much more relatable because like you said 15 minutes ago, everybody's going through crap. And so it's in our vulnerability that we're now relatable, but we also then give the other person permission to show us them.
Yeah. Yeah, without question. And the perfectionism you're talking about, most of my friends are women, and I see so many women. It's heartbreaking, like how crippled they are by the pursuit of perfectionism.
Right.
And this idea that they can only present themselves as the most perfectly put together version of who they are. If they're going to write a song, it has to be perfect. If they're going to, do anything in public, it has to be perfect. And I'm like, yeah, you be good. Like it's good to, like if you're gonna make a song, make a good song, but like the humanity of expression and connection is so much more interesting than perfection. I mean, I'm sure we've all had that experience where like maybe you go on a date and like you're with someone who is like made this huge effort to be perfect and there's nothing to relate to. like, and you almost want to pull them aside and say, like, just like, who are you really? Like, what makes you cry? What are your insecurities? What do you look like with no makeup? What do you, like, just like, I almost feel like that would be the perfect first date, is like two people come together at their worst, not their worst, their meanest, but like looking their worst, maybe don't even bathe for a couple of days beforehand and like see the connection you have there, as opposed to like two perfectly put together people going to an elegant place and having an elegant night. Like that's fun, but there's no honesty there.
Totally. Yeah, there's no so going back to like my mindset of this sort of like intention or frequency or energy, like it's not real. It's in the head and not in the body. And that's something for me that I have worked on myself, is pulling information from the head down into the body and embodying it. And so I'm curious, because you said like a song and perfection. And then I think, are there times where you've recorded and, yes, there's like a perfect way to, and I don't record music, but there's like executing something with perfection, and then there's executing something with perfect vulnerability, which is maybe the voice crackles a little or maybe something, but there's like something about it. It's kind of like a picture maybe where you see somebody and they're like smiling, and then you see them like turn and like catch a moment. Like the caught moment has so much more energy than the posed moment, even though they're both smiling pictures. So similarly with a song, it's like you can sing it beautifully, or you can sing it with like a little bit of like that, the caught moment of like the emotion of it. And have you chosen, or has that happened to you where you record something and you're like, I don't know, there's just something about that one. I know it's not perfect, but that's the one we're putting in the song.
Well, exactly what you're describing happened, because I work with quite a lot of singers, and what you're describing used to happen a lot, where like, I would be working with a singer, they would do a rough run through of a song and it'd be great. And then we'd do the official run through and it wouldn't be nearly as interesting. And so lately, well, for the last like maybe even 10 years, what I do is when I work with a singer, I basically record all of their rough takes and I tell them, I'm like, okay, I just need to get like microphone levels. Let's just run through it a couple times. And like, when we're done, and I'll say to them like, okay, like I just want to run through it a few times so you can get familiar with it. And then I'll say to them, and then we'll do, the official version. Keeping in mind, I'm only recording them doing the unofficial versions because I know those are going to be the good ones. And I've actually had singers get mad at me because when I'm done recording the unofficial versions, I'll say to them like, okay, we're done. And they'll be taken aback. They'll be like, but what about the perfect version? And I'm like, no, this is great. We're fine. And I've had some people actually get very mad at me because I have denied them the ability to do something technically perfect, whereas what I want is emotionally honest.